You're watching Play Replay with Async. On this video, I wanted to give my thoughts on how they should do a Masters of the Universe movie, or maybe a 3-part franchise trilogy, because recently it's come out again that Netflix has an actor ready to play He-Man, and they're going to do a He-Man movie, and they're going to start shooting and all this stuff. Usually that would be fine and everything, and normally we would be like, yeah, that would be cool. But in the past 15 years or 14 years, they've been saying that they're going to do a Masters of the Universe movie over and over and over again. Nothing ever comes of it. Nothing ever comes of it. And a couple times they've sounded like they had a good plan, and then other times they made it sound like they didn't even take it serious, like as a joke. Now, for Masters of the Universe fans, such as me, I'm a big Masters of the Universe fan, it's really kind of irritating because I've always wanted to see a Masters of the Universe movie that looks like like the cartoon, kind of, or somewhat like the comic book even. But the problem is nobody likes to take it seriously, and these movie companies are just like, they're just looking to make money. They're just trying to, what's a franchise that we can make money off of? Or today, they like to beat you over the head with their religious agenda to push LGBT and make sure that the cast is diverse, make He-Man black instead of a white guy or a tan guy or whatever, and they always try to do something. They always want to make a woman that's better than the man. They have to have like 3 women guiding the man around because he's supposed to be an idiot because, sexism and stuff. So it's too much agenda and too much stuff that they have to push down your throat. I wish they would actually sit down and write a good story. Whatever it is, whatever characters are in the story, Because, I realized, like, the Netflix series that they had, Masters of the Universe Revelation, or Revelations, or I don't know what, anyway, and they're supposed to have, like, a second season, and I hated that show, because for me, I watched that show, and I constantly was watching how He-Man, first off, you kill He-Man in the first, like episode, or whatever, I think it was, and then he basically is dead. And then you have mostly like a Prince Adam type of thing. And then, of course, he's not dead. But, it's like, geez, you can't just... And then, of course, Teela, she's like rebelling against the Eternian, whatever, government, in a sense. The kingdom or whatever. Because she found out that Prince Adam turns into He-Man. So, God forbid, And now she's mad because everyone kept it a secret from her all this time. And she's mad at her own father or whatever, Prince, like Duncan or Man-at-Arms or whatever. And it's just this big, we got to deal with her right away. That's so important. Now, she's a great character. She could be the equivalent of a Wonder Woman if you do her right. In the old cartoon, as corny as it was in a lot of spots, they did do her right. They took her serious. We didn't have any problems with sexism in those shows as much. Now, I understand that there was, like, she had curves in her body and she looked feminine. And I know a lot of people take that as sexism for some reason, but the guys, and you can't do that with Masters of the Universe because the guys are not wearing clothes, basically. They're bare-chested, most of them, wearing, just loincloths or whatever, and they're not really wearing any clothes. So in Masters of the Universe, when a woman is kind of revealing a little bit, you really can't really complain because the guys are all that way. That's what it is. That's what we've grown up to like about Masters of the Universe. Just take it or leave it. If you're a director, writer, and you don't like that, then move on. Don't do a Masters of the Universe movie because that's just the way that it was made. If you want Masters of the Universe to be look like something you can recognize, then you're going to get that. So kind of go with it. And everybody's built. That's another thing. There's no fat people and all that stuff. And I realize that'll offend somebody too, but Masters of the Universe, these guys are big built. I mean, I think that's because the gravity there is more heavy duty. It's kind of like when Superman came to Earth, the red sun had made him have power. It's different here than it is on Krypton, you know. So whatever. And I'm sure somebody would have, you know, be offended by some of this stuff, but you know, it's not for you then. That's all. You don't have to watch it. But the TV show, the cartoon or whatever that the Netflix did was very, it just wasn't Masters of the Universe. First off, it focused on only a couple of characters. They didn't have all the other cast characters, which Masters of the Universe has a lot of characters. You don't have to give them all backstories and all this stuff in like a short series, but you can at least like have them there at least. But they didn't really even have them there until like some fighting sequences, or some of them, the ones that we asked for, the diverse one, like Clamp Champ, black guy, right? You'd think that they would, oh, okay, we want diversity in Masters of the Universe, even though there's blue people, green people, and all these other colors, but I guess those are not Earth colors, so they don't count. But you wanted to have diversity, right? Well, okay, you got Clamp Champ. He's a cool character. Guess what? They killed him off, and then they killed him again. His soul in, like, heaven or whatever. They even killed him there, too. I don't know how you could do double kill him, but him and Fisto, another character which they made fun of, some sick, dirty joke about, which he's a decent character. He's a manly guy, so they have to, of course, make fun of him a little bit. It's just, you can't, if you can't take these characters seriously, don't do them. Don't do the story. Because there's an entire group of people who love He-Man and She-Ra and all these things, and they just love it. Stick to what they would enjoy. Because if you reward them, they're probably going to say all kinds of great stuff about this, and maybe get their family members and other people to go see this. And if you do a good job on the story and people like it, you're going to have wealth beyond, you're going to be rewarded for that. Because if you do a good movie, people tend to enjoy it and flock to it. I don't know. But you'd have to have a great, you'd have to have a big budget to do Masters of the Universe movies. And there's a lot of Masters of the Universe fans that like the 80s movie. I don't count that as a Masters of the Universe movie. I'm sorry. That was a movie that they had no budget to do a Masters of the Universe movie. And if you don't have a budget and you can't do it properly, just don't do it. It's like the Mario movie from the 80s. That was horrible. Now imagine if Mario fans were just kind of like trying to make it okay. Well, they kind of did it. No, don't say they kind of did a good job. Don't give them any credit for something if they don't stick to what you love. And it's the same with the Transformer movies. I can't stand them because they don't stick to what you love. They don't actually care about what they should look like, the stuff that they do, the stories with the Transformers. They just kind of just like, you know, let's just make a movie that looks like Transformers and have a bunch of humans running around it. So they don't really care. So if they don't care, we shouldn't reward them with money and say, well, the 80s He-Man movie, well, I kind of liked it. I understand they didn't have the budget they needed, and that's sad and everything, but let's go support it. No, don't reward them unless they get it right. If they get it right, then reward them, you know? So I think that they could do, they could do a really good job with the Masters of the Universe movie if they would just take the time out to write the story. Here's what I always say. I always think of this whenever I think of a Masters of the Universe movie. The 2000X or 2002, whatever, 2001, there was a cartoon series that was on. It was on Cartoon Network, but it went away after a while because Cartoon Network kept flip-flopping with the show times and everything, and just nobody knew it was on. The toy line had, I don't know, there was all kinds of issues. But that show was actually a good show. They did a lot of great stuff in that show, and they took it seriously. And they did a lot of great character development in many characters, not just one or two. They didn't just focus on He-Man and Teela. They actually focused on other characters. You get to see how Too Bad became Too Bad in that show. You get to see a whole episode basically devoted to Stinkor, of all characters. You get to see all these. You get to see like like Skeletor and Hordak kind of had a deal going or whatever with how he loses his face or whatever, and he basically survives that. And you get to see all kinds of stuff. You get to see King Randor when he was younger, right away in the beginning, and you get to see how he basically is told that he's not really told, but you can kind of tell that he would become the leader. You get to see younger versions of things like Skeletor when he was Keldor. You get to see Trapjaw before he was Trapjaw in the beginning. You get to see these interesting little things that you don't usually get to see. And it was interesting. And they spent the time and effort to make, now that's a series, so you had episodes. I get that. In a movie, you're only going to have 2 hours or whatever, 2 hours and a half maybe, to tell this story. So if I was going to do the movie, I would try to stick to, though, the first, like, the beginning for the Masters of the Universe 2000X series, cartoon series. Because that really kind of got it going. It showed Prince Adam. He was turning 16 or whatever, and he's going to turn in, he's kind of a lazy kid, whatever. He stuck to the Prince Adam stuff. And then he ends up having to go to Castle Grayskull, and the sorceress basically gives him his powers, and he doesn't really believe it. And then he finds out something bad happens at the palace, and then he has to go and basically take the sword, and he becomes He-Man. And that's kind of how you could, and then you also, throughout that, you also get to see the evil villains or whatever, or evil warriors or whatever, Skeletor and his minions or whatever. They're in this, basically this sectioned off part of the world where it's like prison for them, and they have Snake Mountain and all that stuff, and they're just kind of stuck there. And they break through and they start coming back from, it's just really cool to see how they did that story in such a short period of time. They they didn't rush it, but they kind of gave you a good start to the Masters of the Universe. And we really need that. And that would be awesome. I just love to see how they would do some of these characters, how they would look. I'm kind of scared, on the other hand, because nowadays it seems like they just go, oh, this is what they look like? Okay, they're wearing all black and they're wearing pants now. It's like, no, that's not what they look like. I'm a big advocate for make the character look exactly like they did. Keep it as 99%. Look at the Marvel movies. The original ones or whatever, because now they're starting to shy away from what the characters look like for the most part. And lots of helmets keep falling off their heads and stuff. But anyway, I say they should just kind of look at what they did with the Marvel movies back. I'm not saying that the Marvel movies are perfect and everything, but Captain America looked like Captain America. Iron Man looked like Iron Man. Hulk looked like Hulk, right? You could recognize him as soon as you seen it. That's why they did so well, because you could recognize the character immediately. And then after, since you can recognize them and they're all together, a lot of people like a team. And that's very interesting. And then I think it did really well, partially because everyone was recognizable, for one, and because you get them all together as a team. Now, Masters of the Universe, you already have a team, basically. You have He-Man, Man-at-Arms, Teela, Orko, Battle-Cat, the Sorceress. You have all these people, and then you have the royal, family. He-Man's dad, the king, and anyway, or Prince Adam's dad, the king. Well, He-Man's dad too, but anyway, and you have all that stuff going, and it's kind of like Shazam, because of a younger, more childish kind of prince turns into He-Man, and it's kind of like a moral. There's could be a lot of morals to the story, good morals, not pushing agendas, none of this stuff, where it's like, if you don't think you can do it, you can do it, because you just got to believe in yourself. That's kind of one of those things that Masters of the Universe and He-Man, the story kind of would tell, just watching a movie. And then you get like the other side, you'd see like Skeletor, maybe you'd see how he became Skeletor, but there would be, I'm sure a lot of fans would be like, they'd be fighting over certain things, like, we don't want Skeletor to be Keldor or whatever. We want him to be this demon from another dimension. And I'm sure that there's a lot of people, I want him to be Keldor, and I don't want him to be related to Randor or Prince Adam, though. I want him to be just this guy, Keldor, that got his face burnt off when he tried to fight. I wanted to kind of stay within the boundaries of the first episode of the 2000X Masters of the Universe show, because I liked that. I just think that it was easy to tell, because you could physically see he got his face burned. He had to use magic or whatever. He had to go sell his soul to Hordak, basically, to have his face to where he could survive. Which, yeah, that's just, keep it like that. I like that. And then, I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff. But I would say for the first movie, they should stick to like getting a small crew of main characters so that you recognize them and you know them. Because if you're going to do a trilogy, you're going to have to introduce many of these other characters eventually. And you don't have to do whole backstories on every one of them, but you could have a major chunk of them because of, have them, you can kind of have the team or whatever go to pick up these guys from wherever they're from on the planet, basically. And then you can kind of see their kind of backstory a little bit in that, as they're acquiring all these heroes to join to make this team. And then for the villains, you could kind of see, how, have Skeletor be like, Merman, go, do such a thing or whatever, and then he'd go underwater and he'd have little minions or something helping him, and you find out his backstory, Trapjaw. You could maybe do a thing in the beginning where it's kind of like Skeletor and Trapjaw were together, and how they met Evelyn or something, kind of a flashback, and you could see that Trapjaw did not have a mechanical arm at the time and a Trapjaw type of thing. And you just kind of do that stuff where you can kind of, it doesn't have to be long, giant, drawn out things, just short little things to fill in the movie so that you got to get a backstory of these characters, but you don't have to tell a whole movie about each character. And then eventually you have this giant battle. The thing that I do like about Transformer movies is they give you like a 20-minute battle at the end that's just battling. It's just complete chaos. I love that. So they could do that with this fairly easy. And have Skeletor, get away, or somehow he gets away or whatever. And then you go on to the next movie. And then you introduce more characters in the next movie, and so on and so forth, until I would say you get to the third movie, and that's when you introduce the Horde, or the Horde comes back. And that could be like your dark side, because I've always thought of Hordak as like dark side from the DC universe. He's like the big bad that even Skeletor wants to kind of get away from, and he wants to cheat and connive and do whatever he can to stop Hordak from having any power. And of course, you could tell like this stuff where there was Snake Men in the early Eternia type of stuff, and that they could come back. And if you want to do a fourth movie, I think, then you could do the Snake Men. And I'm sure a lot of people have all kinds of other opinions and views on this stuff, and that's fine. I'm just giving you mine. But that's what I would do if they actually did a Masters of the Universe movie. I don't know if they would, because like I said, it's been 14 years on and off. There's always a new casting, there's a new everything, and they just keep, nothing ever comes of it. But I just would say that don't do it like the Netflix cartoon series, because that was not very good as far as I'm concerned. I just didn't like it. I just didn't like it. So I would just say stick to the 2000X, because that seemed to work the most. A lot of fans seem to like that more than any of the other stuff for the most part. I mean, the Filmation cartoons, a lot of fans like that because it's nostalgia and they grew up with it. But I don't know how much story they actually have in that. It's not a lot of story to character development, and a lot of characters were kind of dumb. Like they dumbed down everybody, so it's like you don't get a lot of real character development. Whereas the 2000X cartoon series, they did a great job on character development and kind of filling in who these characters are, so that you love them more. And that's really what I want to see for something that I really love as a Masters of the Universe fan, I really love that stuff. So I'm hoping that they could pull off something. I don't know if I like the fact that Netflix is going to try to do a movie, because if they do a movie, I'm afraid what they're going to do with it. It'll be probably Tila and the Masters of the Universe, because He-Man will be like, led around because he's a dumb white guy or something. I don't know. That seems to be the way they do these things nowadays. I mean, Doctor Strange, he's led around by freaking women everywhere in these movies. It seems like there's this agenda to make sure that men are just big dumb dad figures, like all the TV shows, like the comedy sitcoms or whatever. The dads are always the big dummy. Oh, I don't know. And then the woman knows everything. I mean, isn't there any male role models anymore we can't have male role models anymore where they're good guys? And you can't have a strong woman right next to him. Like, she doesn't have to beat you over the head either. She could be a good woman that looks decent, looks like a woman, and still be, just as respected as the man. Why can't we do that? No, we have to have one lesser than the other to make the other one more, because these movies they're tokenizing black people. They're putting these things out there just to basically make it so that they won't get canceled by online people. That's what they're doing. They're doing this. They're just checking boxes so that they can get people on the internet to not cancel that company, because they're not putting enough of this person in that show, or this type of person in that. It's really kind of getting sickening, because I keep seeing it happen over and over and over again. Just stick to writing good stories, make good stories. Yes, there can be black people, white people, kids, whatever. You can have women, whatever. Just stick to telling good stories, okay? You don't have to do all this extra stuff to check boxes. Stick to doing good stories so you can start to make money. I'm pretty sure that these companies like to make money. But if they keep beating you over the head with, white man bad, or women are better than men, or, that type of stuff, then just don't even tell the story. Don't even do it. If you're just going to ruin it, don't even do it. But I don't really want to go on forever. It's getting to be a long video. But yeah, that's kind of where that's how I would see a Masters of the Universe movie or franchise being made. So, like, share, and subscribe, and thank you for watching.